Okay, so this is a reteach for TEK 8.3a and B. So that TEK has to do with similar figures, and since dilations make similar figures, that's why it's showing up here. So learning target. So by the end, you should be able to use the attributes of similar figures so that you're able to write a proportion that describes a relationship between the corresponding sides of the similar figures, including a figure and its dilation. Okay, so here we have two similar figures. And so, remember, similar figures have corresponding angles that are congruent. That's what gives it the same shape. And corresponding sides that are proportional. That's what makes it a different size. Because a lot of times people tell me, similar figures, oh, same shape, different size. This is why it has the same shape and different size. So we're going to focus on this one for this. That's how we're going to write proportions, because the sides are proportional. So remember, in a proportion, things are proportional. You have a proportion, that means the ratios are equal. Okay? Now the key to getting this right is to just make sure our corresponding sides line up. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, because sometimes when figures like this quadrilateral here are turned crooked, I can't really see where my corresponding parts are necessarily. So I always write a similarity statement even if it's not given. So I'm going to start with this first quadrilateral, A, B, C, D. And I know that's similar to this one because, you know, your question would have said these two figures are similar. So you see this mark here, that means angle B and angle X are congruent, which means they are corresponding. So then I also know that if I kind of turn this, I know that angle A corresponds with angle W, and those are also congruent. So now I have enough information to write my similarity statement. So ABCD is similar to WXYZ. Okay, so be careful. They don't always go in alphabetical order, so don't make that assumption. Look and see where your corresponding parts are. Now that I have my similarity statement, I know the corresponding parts. For example, I know AB corresponds with WX. I know that BC corresponds with XY. And then I know what else might be helpful. AD will correspond with WZ. So I know that from my statement, okay, because sometimes it's hard to see it on your figures. All right, so let's talk about how to write these. So basically, your ratio needs to either be two parts of the same figure equal to corresponding parts of the other figure, or it needs to be a corresponding part of figure 1 to a corresponding part of figure 2, etc. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and call this figure 1 and this figure 2 in a highlighter for some reason. Okay, so figure 1, figure 2. And that's going to help me. Now I'm going to write a couple of proportions, but if this was multiple choice, I would start labeling figure 1, figure 2. So the first proportion I'm going to show you is comparing figure 1 to figure 2. Okay, so AB on figure 1, and let's pick CD on figure 1. Okay, so if that's my proportion, or my ratio, in order to write the correct proportion on figure 2, I need the side that corresponds with AB. Well, that's WX. And again, on figure 2, I need the side that corresponds with CD. Well, that's YZ. Okay, so I always go in, like if I'm given this proportional AB, CD equals WX over YZ, then I put these little labels in. And as long as my labels match and these are corresponding sides, it's going to work. Okay, so let me go figure 1 with figure 1, figure 2 with figure 2. This figure drawn again here. So remember, ABCD was similar to WXYZ. That's my similarity statement. And I called this figure 1 and this figure 2. Okay. The other thing you can do is get a side length from figure 1, like AB, and then you can write the ratio of the corresponding side length to figure 2. So AB corresponds with WX. Now when you come over here, you have to make sure that figure 1's side length is in the numerator here. So maybe it's BD. And that corresponds on figure 2. So BD, BD will correspond to XZ. And that would be correct, okay? So let me talk just one quick minute about what would not be correct. So suppose I had this statement, ABWX equals XZ and BD. Okay, so if I have this statement and I go in here and I'm like, okay, AB, that is on figure 1. WX, that's on figure 2. XZ, oh wait, that's on figure 2, and BD is on figure 1. So you see how these numbers like crisscross, they're on diagonals? That can't happen, that's not correct. Okay, so your labels have to match either within your ratio or corresponding parts between the ratio, okay? Let's look at one more. I think I have time to do one more. Suppose I had AB and then WX. And then over here I have AB. Oh wait, that does correspond. I wanted to find one that didn't. Hang on. YX. Let's do YX. And then over here I had AB, WX, and then CD. Okay, so you might say, well, AB and WX correspond, and so do YX and CD, but here's what happened. This is on figure 1 again, and this is on figure 2, and then this is on figure 2, and this is on figure 1. Okay, so you have to match either this way, either 1 to 1, like you need to make sure it matches this way, figure 1 to figure 1, figure 2 to figure 2, and then these have to be corresponding parts. Okay, so go ahead and try your practice and then do your retest. Good luck and may the force be with you.